Imagine waking in perfect darkness, unable to move, unable to breathe, unable to scream, yet every nerve in your body burns as if you're still dying inside the cockpit of a collapsing warlord-class Titan. Imagine hearing voices you thought dead, calling your name from every direction, begging you to remember how they burned, drowned, or were crushed when your god machine fell. Imagine feeling the weight of 1,000 tons of ceramite slamming down on your conscience over and over, because something in the warp refuses to let you forget. That is where Princeps Erastus Valen awakens, alone, disembodied, drifting through an ocean of memory and pain so deep it feels infinite. You will see what he sees. You will feel what he feels. And by the time you reach the end, you may even question whether the living truly escape war at all. Before we descend into his forgotten agony, tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from, because you're about to witness a journey through hell that no one walks away from unchanged. The dark beneath Valen's consciousness isn't empty. It is thick, oppressive, humming with unfinished terror. Sound arrives not through ears but through bone and thought. The first voice that breaches the void is faint, like a wounded soldier whispering through blood-choked lungs. It's a woman's voice, clipped with the discipline of the adeptus mechanicus, yet trembling with something far more human. Princeps Valen, why do you still fight? As the darkness thins like smoke blown apart by a dying breeze, Magos Moderatus Livia Quell takes shape before him. She looks uninjured, clean, composed, nothing like the broken, half-crushed officer he'd last seen pinned beneath a ruptured coolant manifold. Valen feels cold realization crawl across his mind. She is dead and he is not. Or perhaps she is a memory and he is dead. Or perhaps worst of all, neither state matters anymore, because whatever has him is not bound by the rules of the living. You didn't make it, Livia, he whispers, though he doesn't feel breath pass his lips. And you? She asks. He opens his mouth but cannot answer, because in this place of unraveling reality, he truly does not know. Light brims slowly along an endless horizon, revealing a plain of obsidian ash stretching into forever. Floating above it, as if gravity has lost interest in him, Valen sees the unrecognizable wreckage of Invictus Ferrum. His warlord Titan, once a mountain of unstoppable metal, now a broken carcass sprawled across a dead world. Its silhouette is jagged and twisted, as if the Titan didn't merely fall but was torn apart, mid-collapse by something that despised its existence. Valen drifts closer until weight returns to his body with a crushing inevitability, forcing his feet into the ash as if being swallowed by the battlefield's memory. The closer he gets, the heavier he feels, as though every failing servo, every ruptured fiber bundle of the Titan has attached itself to his spine. This is not real, he mutters. It is as real as your guilt allows, Quell replies, her tone neutral yet impossibly cutting. The machine spirit's voice breaks like thunder across the timeless plain. You let us fall. Valen recoils as if struck. A Titan's machine spirit is not supposed to speak like this, not accusatory, not emotional. But here everything he has ever buried, every fear and failure he has tried to silence, returns with perfect clarity, demanding to be acknowledged. As Valen pushes deeper into the wreckage, memories burst around him like artillery shells. He sees the battlefield again, the churned mud, the corpse-piled trenches, the sky seething with unnatural colors as warp storms rip open. The Vox lines had screamed with corrupted static. Loyalist Titans had toppled like desecrated monuments. The traitor Legio had advanced with engines radiating impossible warp flame, their steps bending gravity with every stride. Valen remembers gripping the throne mechanicum, neural plugs searing with overload as Invictus Ferrum fought to stay upright. He remembers Quell shouting damage readouts with blood-soaked clarity, refusing to abandon her post even as half the command deck collapsed around her. He remembers trying to shield retreating guard regiments, turning his Titan into a living wall against incoming hellfire. And he remembers the final moment, the instant a warp-charged missile tore open the Titan's plasma core, flooding the cockpit with radiation, fire, and screaming machine spirit feedback. As the vision replays, Valen feels his chest tighten until he is certain his heart will split. This is not memory, Quell says quietly. This is confession. The machine spirit materializes before him as a towering silhouette of molten brass and steam, neither human nor mechanical, but a warped amalgam of emotion and circuitry. Its voice reverberates through the ash plain until the ground trembles beneath Valen's feet. We stood together, it intones. We bled together. Why did you release me to die alone? Valen falls to his knees, gripping fistfuls of ash that flow through his fingers like powdered bone. I didn't abandon you. I tried to keep you standing. The Titan spirit leans close enough that he can feel the heat of its grief. You fled into unconsciousness. I remained awake, alone, burning. Valen's denial collapses into raw silence, because part of him knows the truth. The last thing he remembers before blacking out was the machine spirit's voice slipping into agonized static, still fighting to hold the Titan upright long after he had lost consciousness. He had left it to die. And in the logic of this strange place, that sin has manifested into a torment stronger than any battlefield wound. Quell's form flickers again, less stable now, her edges dissolving into digital distortion. Princeps, you cling to a death that is not yours, she says. This realm is shaped by what you refuse to release. She gestures toward the Titan's corpse. And suddenly Valen sees not metal but faces, hundreds of them, crew members, Skitarii escorts, engine seers, all rendered in expressions of pain, fear and accusation. Some he recognizes, some he never met, but all of them died when Invictus Ferrum fell. Their eyes bore into him like glass fire. Valen's voice cracks. I didn't ask to survive. Quell kneels beside him, placing a ghostly hand on his shoulder. Survival is not betrayal. The machine spirit roars in protest, sending shockwaves across the ash plane. The faces melt back into twisted steel. The wreckage shudders as if preparing to rise again. But something in Valen begins to shift. Not clarity, not acceptance, but the faintest willingness to confront truths he buried in the name of duty. The sky fractures with a shriek of metal being flayed open. Warp light seeps in like blood through a cracked visor, illuminating new horrors forming from the void. Shapes lurch out. Broken warhound frames crawling like wounded animals. Reaver torsos dragging shattered limbs. Titans Valen fought beside, now twisted into grotesque mockeries of their former glory. Each one carries a fragment of memory, a battle cry, a desperate plea, a final transmission. They circle Valen, not attacking but demanding attention, demanding recognition. You led us, a Reaver shell groans. You commanded us. You survived, a warhound limps forward. Its machine spirit voice little more than static-soaked hatred. Valen feels his mind bending under the weight of their expectations and regrets. But instead of running, he stands, unsteady, trembling, but upright. I remember all of you, he says. Not a day passes where I don't. The monstrous circle hesitates. Even the colossal silhouette of the warlord's spirit falls silent. For the first time, Valen's voice does not shake. I lived because someone had to. Because if every pilot died with their engine, there would be nothing left to defend the Imperium. His words hammer through the void, and with each one the warped titans flicker like glitching hollow projections. A sudden calm blankets the ash plain, eerie and vast. Quell stands tall now, her form stabilizing as though strengthened by Valen's resolve. The machine spirit shrinks, losing its monstrous edges, its molten fury cooling into a mournful glow. Forgive yourself, it murmurs, not a command but a plea. Valen feels heat build behind his eyes as memories, real memories, surface. He remembers his first walk inside Invictus Ferrum, the awe he felt standing beneath its reactor core. He remembers its voice during their first sync, steady and patient like an ancient guardian. He remembers every battlefield they survived, every step they marched in perfect unity, every moment of triumph and terror they shared. This was not a relationship of master and tool, it was a bond, a partnership, a brotherhood forged in fire and duty. When Valen falls to his knees again, it is not from despair but from the weight of gratitude. I'm sorry, he whispers. Thank you for carrying me as long as you did. The Titan spirit bows its massive head, and the world around them begins to dissolve into warm, consuming light. The light intensifies until all shapes melt away. Wreckage, ash, titans quell everything. Valen feels weightlessness return, but it is no longer suffocating. Voices fade into distant echoes. Pain softens into memory. The void becomes gentle. He experiences something he hasn't felt since before the war. Peace. When sensation returns, it is physical, real. Fabric touches skin. Air brushes against his face. Medical instruments beep in consistent, predictable rhythm. Valen opens his eyes to the sterile interior of a recovery frigate's medbay. Surrounded by robed tech-adept surgeons reciting Benharic stabilizing canticles, a medic sees him stir and nearly drops their auspex slate. Princeps Valen? By the throne. You were found crushed under 8 meters of collapsed plating. We assumed you were lost. Valen takes a slow breath, registering the lack of phantom pain. No neural feedback burns. No lingering static in his thoughts. only a quiet clarity, as though the mental storm has finally passed. For a long moment he simply lies there, absorbing the fact that he is truly, unquestionably alive. When Valen finally sits up, the medics rush to stop him, but he raises a steady hand. "I'm all right," he says with a certainty that surprises even him. Across the room, a shattered piece of Invictus. Faram's armor sits on a shrine-like stand, recovered from the battlefield. Valen walks toward it, despite protests from the staff. Each step feels heavy with memory, but no longer with guilt. Resting his hand against the scorched metal, he whispers, "Thank you." And in the faintest recess of his mind, far away but still undeniably real, he hears a final whisper from the machine's spirit. "Walk on, Princeps. We have fallen, but you still rise." His throat tightens, but for the first time since the fall, the emotion is not agony, it is acceptance, honor, continuation. The medics stand in reverent silence, watching him reclaim not just consciousness but purpose. He turns from the relic and looks out a nearby viewport where the void stretches endlessly, stars drifting like distant promises across the black. Valen knows war will call again. The Imperium always hungers for more sacrifices, more battles, more Titan crews who will march into fire believing their steel giants make them immortal. But he also knows something the others do not. A pilot does not die with their engine. A pilot carries the spirit of every fallen battle, every scream, every triumph, and learns to walk forward anyway. That is what separates survivors from ghosts. He breathes deeply, feeling neither haunted nor hollow. Instead, he feels the weight of legacy and the courage to bear it. One day he will command again, perhaps not a warlord, perhaps something smaller. But whatever engine he pilots next will march with the memory of Invictus Faram at its side, and Valen will never forget the Titan that taught him how to rise after falling. If you've stayed with Valen's journey this far, I want to hear your thoughts. Would you walk the path of a Titan pilot knowing the cost? And if you want more deep dive Warhammer stories like this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new tale from the grimdark future.